What is going on, guys? I just want to make this video as kind of like a small guideline for people who are new to Path of Exile 2 to kind of just give you an idea of things you need to be doing within the game or kind of look out for while you're progressing through the campaign, just to either make your life a little bit easier if you're struggling with certain bosses, or if you think that the campaign itself is far too slow, then these tips are for you. So the first thing I want to talk about is waypoints. Now, this isn't going to happen on every map, but while you're progressing through the campaign and you end up finding the destination to the next map you're going to go to, but you want to go back and keep exploring the map, or there's objectives and side quests that you need to do within that map, for a lot of the waypoints in the game, they're at the very beginning of the map. And given the length and how long some of these maps are, you don't really want to run back. So what you can do is just kind of go into the next map, get the waypoint if it's there. If it's not, then, it is what it is. But a majority of the maps do have it in the very beginning, unless there's an objective within that map that needs the waypoint beside it for you to return to later on. So just grabbing that and then going back to the previous map, finishing up what you were doing, finishing up the side quest, finishing up the unique boss if you want to just kill it for fun, rather than walk back. It'll take you some time, and if you die, you end up having to clear everything again just to kind of walk back because of the respawn mechanics of the monsters if you die within that map. The next thing I want to talk about is movement speed. So the campaign for this game is pretty lengthy. I did most of it without any move speed just because I happened to get solid boots early on, and then any upgrade I've gotten for them ever since just were upgrades without move speed. So the campaign for this game is probably around 50 hours, give or take. Having boots with 20% move speed, or just getting some from passives if they're along the route of the skill tree that you're using. Best to pick them up if you can, because like I said, 20% move speed will probably save you 10 hours of that campaign if you're not, dying to bosses over and over and staying there for hours. Up next, checking your vendors. So, in Path of Exile 2, vendors actually can sell very valuable items, especially in the early game, like early campaign, because you don't have very good items, you don't have a lot of stats, so you can buy straight up like yellow items. It'll give you multiple stats, it'll give you some resistances, other stuff that you're looking for. You can find them in the vendors, and they will automatically refresh every single time you level up. So if you're playing through, you level up, you're like, hey, I need some new gear, go back, check your vendors. And not only for yellow items, but once you get later into the game, you'll understand what kind of stats you're looking for and how crafting works. You can find good bases, like you'll find blue items that have just 2 straight up stats that you're looking for. So that's something that's a good starting point for you to turn into a rare, and then maybe Exalt Slam it, and so on. Flat damage versus percent damage. So a lot of the skill points you're going to get from your passive skill tree will be percent damage. And I have a full video on this. I'll put it in the description of this video below if you want to check out the full explanation for this. But basically, just getting stuff, percent damage from your skill tree isn't going to always increase your damage by all that much. If you have very low, like, flat damage. So as you're progressing through the tree, do try to upgrade your items. Do try to get more flat damage into your build. Obviously, weapon damage is the main thing. You can get it on gloves. You can get it on rings. So try and keep an eye out for that. And kind of increase both together, because if you go by one, you'll end up getting to a point where you're like, hey, I'm doing no damage to this boss, even though I have, like, solid gear. So try and look out for that. And the counterpart to that is resistances and charms. If you have very low resistances, you're going to get one-shotted by most bosses. And again, I've played pretty much most of the campaign with very little to no resistances. And you end up just kind of having to dodge every single mechanic to just not get one-shot. It works, it's doable, it'll just make your life a lot easier if you get those resistances, and having those charms, if you know it's a fire boss, use a fire charm, if you know it's a cold boss, use a cold charm, etc. And then another thing that I want to mention is don't rush through the campaign. So if you're going through your maps, if you're progressing through the acts, and you get into a new map, and you take a couple minutes, you move through it, and you find your next destination. That's great, but also check to see if there's any bonuses that you can get from stuff on that map. So either side quests or bosses will either give you like skill points, extra resistances, stuff that you're going to need for endgame anyways, will just make your life easier in the early game if you get them while you're progressing through the campaign. I think you get a total of 24 skill points from progressing through the campaign, through all 3 acts in both regular and cruel. So having 24 skill points less will set you back significantly if you're pushing, towards the end game. It'll hold you back on other bosses. And finally, the last thing I want to mention is make sure you use your currency, whether that's for crafting purposes. And yes, crafting right now is a little bit randomized, so chances are you won't make any crazy items, especially in the early game when you can't, or on lower level items. But either use them for that and try and like progress your gear as you're progressing through the campaign, or go on the PoE trade site and buy items with those currencies, because if you end up, let's say, finishing Act 1 with a level 10 crossbow and then you're partway into Act 2, you're gonna struggle, etc., right? So try and use your currencies. Don't feel like the need to like save them, because if you think you're getting them too frequently, now the more you progress through the game, the more of those currencies you are going to get. Anyways, that's it for this video. I hope these little tips help you guys out, help you speed up your campaign. Find it helpful, give this video a like. Let me know in the comments below if you think there's other things that new players should do. And I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.